Hello, and welcome to my hatred / serenity guide. I'll be mainly talking from a hatred standpoint, but I'll try to mirror everything for serenity. Most of the abilities already look the same, so it shouldn't be too complicated. If you have a question about mirrored abilities, feel free to leave them in the comments. While it may not be meta, it's still incredibly fun to play. This is a quick guide made to showcase how to play Hatred or Serenity effectively without much experience in the class. If you're interested in gearing and how to deal with that, I will reference to my dedicated gearing video to cover that. Trust me, it's worth the watch. As for defensives, I will also refer to my defensive management video, as it covers it way better than I can do in a quick guide. Now, what is Hatred and Serenity good at? It's one of the best cleave specs while also being the squishiest. While it excels when the enemy clumps, its single target doesn't suffer too much. With the right talents, which I will recommend, your mobility will be pretty good as well. If you don't mind dying and are attracted to red like a moth to a light, then this will be one of the most specs to play, much like Vengeance Slam Spam. However, if you don't like dying, this is definitely not the spec for you. When it comes to dealing with majority specs, it falls over quite fast. It's truly the only thing holding it back. It can adapt to a more bursty playstyle, which makes it far more adaptable than before, but the defensive ability is too much of a deal to overlook. It'll thrive in situations where there's no healers, as no amount of healing can keep this thing alive under even the slightest focus fire. Tanks will slow it down, but also help keep it a lot more. So when the queue is lacking healers, it's great for Hatred and Serenity. Now, going into the main combo and opener, this is vital as a lot of your damage will be done here, and it will be your core to your reset combo as well. With the talents I show you, you can open with Phantom Stride into Death Field, Recklessness, Eradicate into another Death Field and another Death Field. Then you would discharge into Creeping Terror roots, so you typically want to use that second, so you can then secure a free lacerate without them moving, to basically spread your dots. If you don't have anybody to spread to, then maybe tab and apply your dots to somebody else. However, you do have things like Leeching Strike, which will be a lower priority but isn't a bad follow, and then also Assassinate. The ideal is getting dots on everybody and lacerating a clump or thrashing on somebody that is a single target. In clumps, your death field will be coming off cooldown very fast and will reset if you get a kill as well, not just a killing blow, but just any contribution to a kill. Recklessness will also give a charge back, allowing for some nasty cleave. Anytime you have Recklessness and a charge of death field or two, you can use your Stealth Out and Phantom Stride into another opener combo, basically a reset, to really nuke players when they stack. Your dots already applied from prior to the Stride will also benefit from the Shadowcraft opener. This means Recklessness will be resetting very fast, so pay close attention to it. My bad. Death Field, Eradicate, Creeping Terror, and Discharge are like your core. One of them would be the one to increase your dot damage, so that'd be Death Field. Eradicate is your 1 second bursty dot, and then you have Creeping Terror. And Discharge, Creeping Terror is internal and will root people. And then Discharge is just your basic dot. And then you have Leeching Strike, which is basically something that would do more damage if you had all 3 dots on the target, but since you're taking the 1 second Eradicate, you can't really get that. Lacerate being your spread ability. It's decent for AoE after dots are applied to at least one person so you can spread them. Other than that, it's not a great ability. You can also reveal Stealth. Thrash is your single target higher damage option. Typically, this is the core for any time when your dots are already up on things and other things are on cooldown. Assassinate lost its auto critical, so it's more so used when you're pushing Force down way too much. Force Slow is more of a yellow damage ability when you absolutely can't afford to miss, or effectively used on classes who can't immediately purge it, like Mercenary. Typically speaking, it doesn't have as many abilities as other classes, but each one is quite impactful, except maybe Leeching Strike in the build I prefer to play, which will be with 2-time Trouble or Double Cloak. Now, here are the talents that I run. I always run Reset Deathfield, since Deathfield is internal and AoE is the most potential for more damage and gives you far more value out of Shadowcraft than the other builds. I then run a force speed duration increase just for the mobility, but the slow is very effective at keeping people in place and during force speed to create not only gaps in ability ranges for players to hit you back, but also to trap them in your Deathfield drops. I then pretty much only play with 1 second Eradicate. It's still considered a dot, so it goes to things like Reflect, even more so Mercenary Reflect, so you have a surefire way of pretty much always killing mercenaries, which are great targets for dot spread in general, and a slow moving target to use line of sight on. The other one that increases your critical hit chance on dots is also good, but I just don't see the same value as it lowers your single target burst quite a lot, and it also does not synergize with Shadowcraft as much. I mean, it's not terrible, but it's definitely not as good. There's a time and place for each one. However, 1 second Eradicate is probably what you should start with if you're a new player. Then I take the talent to regen force, but also increases the critical hit damage because it's a flat damage increase, while also increasing force regen, which is lacking with this build as our force cost will be super high, spamming Deathfields. We will also sometimes use the reset on recklessness, as it's a better burst if you just really need to get a kill fast, but it does fall behind pretty fast and will just be, statistically speaking, worse anytime that you misplay it. Then you can pick either CC immunity on deflection or shorter cooldown on stealth out. Typically this is optional. If you choose the CC immunity, then it's typically better to rock 2-time trouble, unless you're running arenas. If you're running 2 cloaks, even in 8s, typically run reduced cooldown on stealth to take better advantage of the stealth outs and the 2 cloak statical. However, the real difference is single target damage for the most part, as any clump window is mostly wiped with Deathfields. But any sustained damage or prolonged battle, 2-time trouble will pretty much win out. Going into the next talent row, this is pretty much noob bait. Immersion is really the only one to find value here. Honestly, this whole tier shouldn't exist, but that's my own opinion. Then the next one is still pretty simple. Shroud is far more valuable than the other two. There are very few cases where Whirlwind can be good, but typically don't bother with it, as whatever value you may think you gain, you lose it in survival. Then the final point, I often see people running all three of these. At times, I run the middle for multiple reasons, and I do not think this is even close when it comes to value. Reduced cooldown on force speed and breaker is unbeatable. You already cleanse on stealth out, and Shroud doesn't save you from anything that'll persist. However, getting caught will happen either way. Shroud often isn't going to help you and should be seen as more of a learning curve you need to overcome to truly succeed, even as deception as well. With that, talents are concluded. The implants I run are Shadowcraft and Second Wind. I will sometimes swap out Second Wind for the negative 15 seconds on Recklessness in arenas if it's tank and heal. But overall, these usually stay the same. As for tactical, I run 2-time trouble and 2 cloaks depending on the matchup or map, and I swap accordingly. Since the class is basically a kamikaze, you want to be mindful of how you open. Being the first one in is a surefire way to be the first one out. It can work if you cloak out early and re-engage, but typically let someone else take the opener and then engage yourself. Mobility will be your best friend once you've got your dots going, and making yourself annoying to hit is the whole ideal, as it's the only way you can truly play defensively, as deflection is only good against ranged melee damage, aka white damage, and not yellow and force attack. But Shroud is effective against the latter there. It's difficult to read the battlefield most times, but with time and experience, you can take a favorable engagement, especially spots where there's line of sights available, should it turn bad. When it comes to arena, you're mostly looking at trying to get a sap and not getting caught, as it could put you in a very bad spot. Typically, you'll want somebody to open, but sadly, the state of arenas, most are ranged or do not take the initiative of the role to engage. This can definitely put you in a bad spot, and you can open if there's not a lot of classes that completely nuke you, basically in one white bar. Thinking about like APPT, those are very scary, and multiple mercenaries. And if there is, you need to typically respect it, but if there isn't, you can kind of get away with it. Definitely try to open near line of sight as well. It's not the ideal spec to bring into arena anytime there is a healer. And when there is a healer, you're often more of a liability than a benefit, so do keep that in mind. Other than that, you have all you need now to get into Hatred and Serenity to start testing the waters. If you guys have any specific questions about the class or how to deal with situations, I have quite a few videos on Hatred and Serenity to give you an idea of how it plays or feels. If you guys have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. I will do my best to get back to you. Until then, good luck and have fun.